Throughout this video, I will be discussing the history, the effects and the future of climate change. In addition, I will also be discussing my carbon footprint and my action plan to reduce this. First, coming onto the history of climate change, humans have increased the amount of carbon dioxide by 45% since the pre-industrial age, which can be seen on the graph. In Earth's atmosphere, the concentration of carbon dioxide currently is nearly at 412 parts per million and rising. Since the beginning of the pre-industrial age, it represents a 47% increase when the concentration levels were near 280 parts per million, and since 2000, 11% increase when it was near 370 parts per million. Scientists believe that the increase in carbon dioxide is caused mainly by human activities, which I will be discussing later in this video. Methane is another greenhouse gas, according to scientists, which stayed at a steady level from year 1000 until the 1900s, then increased exponentially, as you can see on the graph. Therefore, changes are coming sooner and becoming more significant. As well as these greenhouse gases, others including nitrous oxide, methane, CO2, water vapor have also played their part in the cause of climate change as they have increased. Now I will be talking about the natural and human causes of climate change. Some of the natural causes include El Niño-La Niña, which is part of a cycle that occurs every 2 to 7 years that influences extreme weather and can impact food production, water supply and human health. Another natural cause is volcanic eruptions, which cause the global temperature to decrease by releasing clouds of dust and ash, which block out sunlight. Also, changes in the amount of energy radiated by the sun to the earth has had an effect of changing the climate on earth. Now going on to the human causes, which include greenhouse gas emission, which occur naturally in the atmosphere and serve to absorb and radiate heat around the globe for the benefit of life. These gases are produced on such a large scale that is causing an energy imbalance. Carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide and methane are all the gases that are damaging the climate. However, carbon dioxide is the main culprit and suspect of the cause of climate change. Fossil fuel usage also plays a part, as carbon dioxide is being released in large numbers, which in turn stays in the atmosphere for a long time, and after 50,000 years, only then it fully dissipates, in which it keeps on radiating heat. Also, by burning fossil fuels, it reduces oxygen and reduces the ratio of oxygen to nitrogen in the atmosphere. Now coming on to another human cause, which is industrial production and livestock farming. Factories release emissions which contribute to the greenhouse effect, while live farming increases the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Large amounts of methane are released to the atmosphere. Deforestation is also another human cause of climate change, as carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is absorbed by trees. The level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will increase as more trees are cut down. Now I'll be talking about the impacts of climate change. The first impact of climate change is heat waves. As the global temperature is increasing, the amount and severity of heat waves have increased across the world. In England, the summer heat waves of 2019 resulted in almost 900 deaths. As the global temperatures increase due to low rainfall, the frequency of wildfires is significantly increasing in numbers, and there's a risk of exceptionally large fires. The Australia wildfires in 2020 caused an estimate of 500 million of species to die, an estimated 72,000 square miles to be burnt, and it also destroyed over 5,900 buildings, including 2,779 homes, and killed at least 34 people. Drought risk is increasing because of climate change. El Niño contributed to the drought in some regions. It puts the health and well-being of not only animals and crops at risk, but of the farmers and communities that depend on them too. Since the pre-industrial period, the sea level has risen by 8 to 9 inches, with about a third of that coming in just the last 2.5 years. This is caused by sea level temperature increasing, causing the glaciers and ice sheets to melt, in turn increasing the sea mean level. This increases the coastal flood risks. Climate change causes the risks of floods caused by heavy rainfall and a bigger probability of heavy storms. An example of this is in 2016, when in Louisiana was hit by an extremely heavy rainfall in which 13 people got killed, 150,000 homes damaged, and total cost was an estimated $8.7 billion. Due to climate change, scientists believe that the chances of this event to occur has risen by 40% at least. Now, comment onto the overall changes the climate may face if things aren't going the way they are presently, and if changes were made, including the current situation of COVID-19 and current activists. According to scientists, if no changes are made to the reduction of emissions of greenhouse gases, we could see a rise in temperatures by a minimum of 4 degrees Celsius by 2100. This is twice the level the world's governments see as dangerous. Also, the frequency and severity of natural disasters could increase, as well as an increase in the loss of species. Heat waves and sea levels increase to about 60 to 100 centimeters. Scientists say that mountain regions such as Alps could completely disappear by 2100, and CO2 increasing to 800 parts per million by 2100 in the worst case scenario. Now, comment onto if changes are made. If all the countries keep the global temperature under 2 degrees, you could see the CO2 equivalent to only increase to 475 parts per million, which is currently at a value of 415 parts per million. It is evident that there are many current activists who are trying to take action to change the current climate, which can help to make a change in the current climate situation. These include Greta Thunberg and Leonardo DiCaprio. Greta Thunberg is a 17-year-old climate change activist that has inspired millions of people take action to slow down and stop climate change. She urges the governments around the world to do more to cut global emissions. Leonardo DiCaprio is an actor, producer, and is also a climate change activist that has started a foundation called Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, which is dedicated to urgently addressing climate and environmental threats to life on Earth and to protect the vulnerable wildlife from extinction. The foundation has supported many projects across many organizations, including donations as well, including the World Wildlife Fund, which it has donated to climate science, indigenous rights, and critical species preservation. Furthermore, recently we have seen the pandemic of COVID-19, which scientists do believe there can be hope to slow down climate change, which can benefit lives in the future. It is evident from reports that air pollution levels have plummeted down. However, lasting change will only happen if emissions do not rise rapidly again once the COVID-19 crisis has passed. So if relevant changes are made, together it can help climate change. From people having to work from home, it's helped, for example, the CO2 levels, and this is something businesses can look into in the future if it is not always necessary to travel. Now I'll be discussing my carbon footprint and calculations. Starting with my primary carbon footprint, which consists of my journey from home to Coventry University where I currently study. From home to Soundodadi train station, and then vice versa. I use this formula to work out the total CO2 emitted by the car per university year. To do this, I have to work out the total distance first. I then get a distance of about 150 kilometers. This is then multiplied by the conversion factor obtained by the Gov 2019 conversion factor spreadsheet to get a value of 0.03 tons CO2 equivalent per university year. Now coming on to the second part of my journey, from the train station journey to Coventry train station through train and vice versa. Once again, I work out the distance to get a value of 7,362 kilometers per year. We then times it by the conversion factor to get a value of 0.30 tons CO2 equivalent per university year. Now coming on to the kilowatt hour of energy usage of gas and electricity. This graph shows my family's usage for the year 2019, which you can see on the graph. I used it to obtain my values for my natural gas and electricity usage. I calculated the amount of CO2 equivalent emitted from my electricity usage by multiplying the electricity usage, which is 4,273 kilowatt per hour, by the conversion factor, which is 0.2556, and then divided this by 6, the amount of people in my household, to get an individual usage, which is 0.18 tons CO2 equivalent per year. Now coming on to the natural gas usage. I calculated the amount of CO2 equivalent emitted from my natural gas usage by multiplying the gas usage, which is 28,728 kilowatts per hour, by the conversion factor, which is 0.18385, and then divided this by 6, the amount of people in my household, to get an individual usage, which is 0.88 tons CO2 equivalent per year. We got a primary total of 1.39 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. To work out the secondary carbon footprint, I used the secondary carbon footprint calculator. As you can see, this consists of food and drink products, paper-based products, education, recreational, cultural, and sporting activities. Also, just to note, vegan was the closest to my diet. I am a lacto-vegetarian. So for the secondary carbon footprint, I got a value of 2.57 tons CO2 equivalent per year. Overall, with my regards to my methodology, most things were included that are part of my carbon footprint for my journeys. However, I did not include my bus or plane journeys as they are not very frequent and only when needed. Also, my parents support me financially, and these figures are based solely on my spending, not including theirs. So overall, it is not a true reflection of myself, but it is the closest it can be. Also, with regards to my secondary carbon footprint, education plays a big part, as you can see, which is 2.29 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. But this is the current fee applicable for my university course, which is not in my control. Otherwise, if this was taken out, my secondary carbon footprint would be 0.28 tons CO2 equivalent per year. So for the total CO2 equivalent emissions, I got a value of 3.96 tons CO2 equivalent per year. Now coming on to how my carbon footprint compares to the average footprint for people in the United Kingdom. While the average footprint for people in the UK is 6.5 tons CO2 equivalent per year, as per the carbon footprint calculator, meaning that my carbon footprint is just under. So it means that I need to decrease it so it is as far away as possible to the average. Finally, I'll be talking about my action plan to reduce my carbon footprint. For education, by 2021, my secondary carbon footprint should be 0 tons. After finishing university, so no fees, and my secondary carbon footprint reducing to about 1.17 tons CO2 equivalent per year. However, in the meantime, the plan is to lobby about the tuition fees, which seem to be increasing. This change can help to reduce my carbon footprint and how to reduce the war target. Other changes are shown on the table, as you can see, detailing the impact, including savings for reusing bottles, reducing heat by 1 degree Celsius, filling the kettle with the amount of water required, and spending 1 minute less in the shower. In order to ensure that my carbon footprint reaches below the war target of 2 tons CO2 equivalent per year, as per the carbon footprint calculator, is to try and incorporate these changes into my life. Passing this information on to my friends and family, and I could send links about what actions could be taken with social media, WhatsApp, highlighting the amount in pounds and the amount of CO2 that can be saved. So to try and highlight it in a positive way is both beneficial to the environment and to the person, as it saves them money. Now who doesn't want this? This can be done both nationally and internationally. I will leave you with that thought. And thank you for your time and for listening.